Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Veterans Day ceremony here in Manhattan Beach for November 11, 2020. I'm your Mayor, Richard Montgomery, in the city of Manhattan Beach, along with my colleagues, Mayor Pro Tem Suzanne Hadley, Hildy Stern, Sheila Napolitano, and Nancy Hersman. A different year for all of us, but nothing changes our veteran service. My father, my grandfather, nephews, many people, members of our council have sons serving in the military now. So with those of all of the past that have served, thank you. Those who are serving now, thank you for your service and continuing your service for all of us and keeping us all safe. No one forgets. We all remember, especially members in the family that have served. No year goes by without thanking our family and friends for their service. Doesn't stop here. We had a ceremony last week, one of our employees recognized for her service in flying the Black Hawk helicopter. So there's a lot we do in this city you don't pay attention to. One thing we always do is recognize and honor our veterans.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Thank you, Tracy Robinson, for making us all feel good. Every time she sings, I get chills. I feel that. I can hit those high notes. Next, I want to express our Veterans Day sentiments better than I do it myself. One of our very own is our keynote speaker. Some of you may know him. If you've been in the city a few years, maybe you know who he is. If you new people, his name is Bob Holmes. So Bob has been in Manhattan Beach since 1964 and has lived here since 1968, over 50 years. Graduated from UCLA in 1968, and as an Army ROTC member, he was commissioned second lieutenant upon graduation. Bob served stateside from 1968 to 70 with a short stop in the Canal Zone for jungle warfare training. He then began a one-year tour of duty in Vietnam. Initial assignment in Vietnam was with the Army Security Agency, which took him all over Vietnam, from the Mekong Delta to the DMZ, and from the coast to the Central Highlands and the Cambodian border. With that, I welcome former Mayor Bob Holmes.
This morning, let's go back 102 years. On the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month in 1918, an armistice was signed, ending 4 years of bitter fighting and bloody battles. The war to end all wars had finally ended. World War I was over. November 11th was celebrated as Armistice Day. Unfortunately, World War I proved not to be the war to end all wars. World War II and Korea followed. Armistice Day was changed to Veterans Day in 1954, but continues to be celebrated on November 11th. Often, thinking of Veterans Day, World War I and World War II come first to mind, as they should. However, we absolutely must remember the veterans of the forgotten war, Korea, and the hardships they suffered. Poorly equipped, poorly supplied, enduring the freezing winters, fighting along the Yalu River and the Chosun Reservoir. Nor can we forget the literally millions of young men and women who served in the humid jungles, tropical forests, and rice paddies of Vietnam. That was our last war fought with a drafty army. Young men who did what our government told them to do came home to hostility and disdain. Their treatment remains a stain on our country's history. Harder to remember, but every bit as important, are those brave members of the armed forces who risked their lives in not only the Gulf War, Desert Storm, Iraq, and Afghanistan, but who fought for freedom in those much lesser known and usually forgotten conflicts in Somalia, Haiti, Grenada, Panama, Bosnia, and more. General Colin Young said it best: "We have a military ready to deter war if possible and win decisively if necessary." Not all veterans were called upon to go to combat zones. Many served in the United States or non-combatant countries. They made very important contributions to our military as well. We can't forget them. Likewise, the reservists, the National Guard troops. Those veterans answered their country's call and deserve our thanks and admiration as well. As anyone who served in any branch of the service knows, when those next orders arrive, no one knows until then where they're going to be assigned. It's just luck of the draw. So if you didn't go to a combat zone, that's okay. Now, clearly, no member of the armed forces ever wants to die in combat. But the United States has an enviable record of charity towards and sacrifice for others. During my year tour of duty in Vietnam, I carried with me a little homemade desk sign I'd like to share with you. It's a quote from John Stuart Mill, and it's a little bit faded, but that was with me there. "War is an ugly thing, but not the ugliest of things. The decayed state of moral and patriotic feeling, which thinks nothing is worse than war, is far worse. A man who has nothing which he cares for more than his personal safety is a miserable creature who has no chance of being free." He nailed it. To the young people in the audience today and their parents, I say, please consider military service. Whether or not you make it a career, the discipline, self-reliance, and confidence you receive in the military, not to mention excellent training, will serve you throughout your life. You'll be grateful you did it. Plus, your country needs the best and brightest. Now, in the South Bay recently, we lost a wonderful veteran. It was LA Superior Court Judge Vince Okamoto. Vince passed away the end of September. He had been a Gardena council member and mayor, all sorts of things. He was an Army captain in Vietnam. He was born in a World War II internment camp in Poston, Arizona. He's in the Army Ranger Hall of Fame, and he won the Distinguished Service Cross. The only higher medal is the Medal of Honor. And I'm proud to say he's a member of my chapter, or was a member of my chapter, South Bay Chapter 53, Vietnam Veterans of America. Vince was a big proponent of the Japanese-American Vietnam Veterans Memorial. I hadn't heard about it, quite honestly. Very few of us have. But Vince spoke at the dedication ceremony in Washington, D.C. in 1995. And I think his quote rings true today as much as it did then. We have a limit on the tomorrows allotted to us. I say to the veterans of Vietnam, and it applies to all veterans, let us put the tomorrows that remain to us to good use, to savor each day, and not let the anger and bitterness of the Vietnam War poison our lives. I hope as veterans that we can come to this place and find a sense of peace. I hope that a healing process can begin. I hope that this memorial will remind you what a precious gift life is. Well said, Vince. Veterans of all ages, all eras, all ranks, and all periods of service, today is your day. Enjoy it. You've earned it. Thank you.
I asked my dad, who served as a sergeant in the Army in the Korean War, what the one thing he remembered the most he would share with someone else that couldn't be here today. So he sent me, I don't know who actually wrote it. I don't know if my dad did or someone else who saw it, but I'll read what he said. If I had a chance to speak to someone today, as veteran to veteran, to all those we lost, and to all those who bravely served so that the rest might live. So that's all my dad wanted me to say to everyone here, to Bob and all the veterans and everyone watching at home, or that had served, his point of view of what Veterans Day means. So I echo my dad's statements. I appreciate all of you being here. I know it's an unusual time to have Veterans Day ceremony during COVID, but we haven't forgot our message and our meaning. We all celebrate Veterans Day differently. If your family didn't serve, thank someone else who's not in your family, someone else you see wearing a veteran's tag, a lapel that you'll recognize who they are, the hats that say they're veterans. So welcome all, say hello, and thank you for their service. With that, thank you all for joining us today, Veterans Day 2020, and we'll see you all again next year, God willing. Thank you very much. Goodbye.